Hey everyone, we're going live a few minutes early here. A video will come up in a couple of minutes when it's actually 10:30 Pacific. But I thought I might, since we're early, tell you a little story for those of you that might be tuning in a bit early. So when I was, I think probably 12 years old, I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio. My dad said, "Hey Greg, would you like to go up and meet somebody 35 miles north of Cincinnati who you're really, really going to like?" And I said, "Sure." And so we got in the car and we drove up to Lebanon, Ohio, which is about 35 minutes north of Cincinnati, 35 miles north of Cincinnati, 35 minutes north of Cincinnati. So we get up there and we drive out into this field. And there's like these, it's a Saturday morning and I'm really excited to be with my dad. It's just so much fun. And this field is like filled with cars. There's like 50, 60, what am I thinking? Maybe like 100 cars all around this barn. There's like this barn in the middle of this field. So we go inside the barn and there's people in there. It's like the barn is filled with carpet, appliances, all these things, and checkout counters and whatever. And it was called Cash Ambergy's Big Bargain Barn. Cash Ambergy's Big Bargain Barn. So Dad takes me over to meet Cash. So Cash is big guy, he's got this Western hat on and the blue jeans with what, the straps that go over your shoulders, whatever you call those, the bib kind of blue jeans. And so Cash takes me back and Dad introduced me. And then he says, "Greg, I want to tell you a story." He said, "Back many years ago, I used to be a preacher and I was actually styled myself as the world's greatest Bible salesman. And then I decided, well, there's not a lot of money. And actually to prove that, he went out and sold like 150 Bibles in 2-3 days, something like that. So then he said, but I decided to get into carpet and appliances, etc. And I remember saying to him, I said, yeah, I see that here, Cash, and just so cool to meet you. But I mean, why in the world would you, open this up in the middle of nowhere, Lebanon, Ohio, like 35 miles up the road?" And he said, "Greg," he said, "see all these people? This place is like totally," I said, "I know. How in the world do you get all these people?" They have to be from Cincinnati because there aren't this many people that live in this little town of Lebanon. "How do you get all these people to drive all the way up here to buy carpet and appliances and the stuff you're selling, drive all the way back to Cincinnati?" And he says, "Greg, it's the difference in the why." And I said, "It's the what?" He said, "It's the difference and the why." And I said, "What does that mean?" And he said, "Well, here's the deal. Everybody in business knows it's important to be different." And even at 12 years old, I knew that because my dad was in the real estate business and we had talked about that. So he says, but to really make your difference, make a difference, to really make your difference, make a difference, you need to have a compelling why. And I said, "What does that mean?" He said, "You need to have not the reason you're doing it." He said, "Of course you need to have the reason you're doing it, but the reason you're doing it really needs, the more important why is the why you're doing it in the head of the consumer, the person who's going to buy from you." And he said, "I view it as a credibility enhancing why." And he said, "Here's the bottom line. All the stuff I sell is made by other manufacturers, carpet mills, companies that manufacture the toaster ovens and the things here." And he said, "So the thing is that really the only way to compete is on price." He said, "Service is not a big deal with the stuff we do. So as you know, all over Cincinnati, the carpet and appliance stores, they all compete on price. Come here, buy at the lowest price." And he said, "So everybody says it, but nobody believes it when it comes to price. Everybody says they'll work harder. Nobody believes it because everybody says it. Everybody says they got the lowest price. Nobody believes it because everybody says it." He said, "So I needed a credibility enhancing why, I could sell at the lowest price." So what I did is I decided to rent this barn totally cheap up in Lebanon, Ohio, in the middle of a cornfield. Now, of course, he's got actually a barn looking structure in Lebanon. And he said, so that I could advertise into the Cincinnati market. And his commercials went something like this: "Hey, this is Cash Ambergy here and talking to you from Cash's Big Bargain Barn up in Lebanon, Ohio. Beautiful, scenic 35-mile drive north of Cincinnati. Hey, if you want to save money on carpet, appliances, all the needs for your home, come on up to Cash's Bargain Barn here in Lebanon, Ohio. It's a beautiful scenic drive up the road. And well, you know, they about gave me this barn up here because they wanted me so bad. So you fine folks from Cincinnati would come up and frequent the pie shop and the ice cream shop. And he said, so I have almost no expenses. And since I have almost no expenses, what the heck? I can sell carpet and I can sell appliances below anybody in Cincinnati. So come on up. You want to save money on carpet. You want to save money on appliances. Come on up to Cash's Bargain Barn in North Lebanon, Ohio. Buy some carpet, buy some appliances, have a piece of pie, save a bunch of money, have a beautiful scenic drive. And then he'd finish and he'd say, and oh, by the way, take it from Cash. I don't care about making money. I just love to sell carpet. Well, he opened Cash's Bargain Barn, and that's Cash with a capital K. You can look him up, Cash Ambergy, on the internet. And he became a multimillionaire in a matter of just a few years with a barn in North Lebanon, Ohio, selling carpet and appliances because he understood the power of not just having a difference, but having a why. So, Adam, are we good to go here?
We're good to go.
Okay. Are we like on video?
We're on video.
People can actually see me. So now I have to go into real estate mode. Is that what the deal is? Okay. So what is, well, let me just give you a little intro and then we'll get started. So my background real briefly is I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio. My dad was in the real estate business. I started selling when I was in college, got my real estate license at 18 and sold in the summers instead of, having to have a real job. And did pretty well, did okay in the summers, made a little bit of money, held open houses out at subdivisions. And then when I was fortunate to be able to go to law school, pass the Ohio bar exam, but I loved real estate so much, I stayed in real estate. And over the course of those years, I had a lot of success. I became the top agent. Then, by the way, I built a company. Then I moved to Arizona where the weather was nicer. And I became the #1 real estate agent in the state. Number one. Number two, I built a number of companies from one of the top Christie's luxury home firms in Arizona to a 121 office, 4,000 agent real estate firm. And the quick backstory is when I got into the business, I was like everyone else. I struggled too. In fact, the first 5, 6, 7, 8 listing appointments I went out on, even though I was with my dad's company at the time, I would use that as a card, like as a playing card, like my dad will do more for you since I'm in his company. I still didn't get the listing. I mean, who wants to list with an inexperienced agent? Doesn't have a big name. I wouldn't have listed with me. But then I came up with an idea. And the idea involved, and I can, if anybody asks, if you want to, then I'll tell you what it is. But the idea, what it did was it deflected the sellers off of me. So I wasn't selling me, but I was selling a process. I was selling a formula. The way I like to characterize it today is I was selling a strategy. So think of it like this. And this is, by the way, this one single thing. I'll answer whatever questions today. I'm excited to do it. But this one single thing, understanding that the best way to have home sellers call you and have home sellers want to list with you is to actually have a better product, a better process for selling their home, better formula for selling their home, something that breaks the traditional routine. Because, one of the things I put out in my Voxer yesterday to a lot of the agents I coach, I do Voxering with them, walkie-talkie, is don't let tradition cage your ambition. Whatever it is, don't let tradition cage your ambition. Don't let the fact that most people put a sign up right away make you think that that's the best thing to do. Don't let the fact that most people, put homes in MLS in 48 hours, don't just presume that's the best thing to do. I mean, you just look at every single aspect of the home selling process, and say to yourself, could there be a better product? Because I got to tell you something. If you go to home sellers with a Mercedes when everybody else is selling, trying to shine up their Ford, their same old thing, and you show them that you have a logically transparent, better process for selling their homes, you're going to win virtually every time because they'll realize what? They'll realize if they don't list with you, they'll be leaving money on the table. And one of the things, just to get started, is that don't think that home sellers hire realtors to sell their home. That's a common misconception. That's just not true. They may say that, but what they're really wanting is to identify the realtor who will sell their home for more. And I got to tell you, the fact that realtors sell more homes, the realtors out there that are selling more homes, that does not necessarily mean they're selling homes for more. And even if you don't have a big name, even if you haven't sold a lot of homes, even if you don't have a lot of experience, with a better process, with a better formula for selling homes, I promise you 100%, you can beat the big names. You can beat the more experienced agents every single day. And now I'll just finish by saying, like going back to when I got started and that first formula I came up, the first thing, well, what I did is I went to home sellers and I came up with this thing that was make every agent your listing agent. This is just an idea. I had a strategy, a formula, because I wasn't getting any listings. I was working my butt off and not making any money anyway. And I didn't want to spend the rest of my life struggling like that. I mean, if there is a fast path, I would rather take that than the long, arduous path. And I've always believed in life that there are fast paths, much faster paths than what most people take. They just don't find them. You know, hard work's great. And I talk a lot about how what I lack in smarts, I'll make up for in effort. What I lack in money, I'll make up for in effort. What I lack in open doors, I'll make up for in effort. And effort's really fantastic. You got to have it. But there's still easier ways to apply your effort, ways that your effort can get you further. So I came up with this idea, and the idea was make every agent your listing agent. So I went into the next seller who would meet with me, and I said, tell you what I'll do. I'll co-broke the whole 6% commission. Instead of just keeping 3 and co-broking 3, I'll co-broke the whole thing. And they said, well, wow, how do you make anything? I mean, I said, well, first thing is you got to admit that'll give every agent in town double the incentive to sell your home. And the way I'll make something is by busting my butt, not sitting back on my butt, and try to sell your home too. And if I don't, okay, I'll close it and I figure you'll refer people to me and maybe you'll buy a home from me. Well, I listed the next 10 homes in a row with that process, that formula, and next 10 homes in a row, I only, all 10 sold. I only sold one myself. The other 9 I closed for free, but I made 6% on that one, and 6 of those home sellers bought a home from me. So I made 3% there. And bang, that just got me off to the most amazing start in real estate. And at that point, I recognized that the real magic dust was having a formula, having a process, having a strategy, a better way that messed around with the traditional routine for selling homes. And that's how I've been so successful selling. That's how I've been so successful building companies. And I believe it's how I've been so successful in coaching and training. Okay, well, Adam, so that was probably too long of an intro, but I get going and yeah, what are we going to do? So let's start hitting the questions. What do we have?
We've got a few questions. Let people know how they can ask questions, just in case they don't know if they're new to this, hitting the Q&A function.
How can they ask questions?
You don't know?
Oh, I know how they can ask questions. So Adam, COO of Real Estate Mavericks, my good friend, said you up at the top, if you would like to ask questions, there's a little thing that says Q&A. You click on the Q&A, and then on the right-hand side should drop down a little thing where you can type in questions, right?
Or they can shoot an email to help@realestatemaverics.com.
Or you could even shoot an email to help@realestatemaverics.com. Do we have somebody actually looking at that? We actually have somebody looking at that. So if you shoot an email over there, it'll somehow get to me, right? But you can just hit the Q&A and go down and do that, okay?
Okay, so first question comes from a gentleman by the name of Russell.
Russell. Hi, Russell.
Pretty good generic question that I think a lot of agents have.
Give me an easy one to start with here, Russell. Okay.
So he's a new agent, brand new agent, been in the business for about 2 months.
You know what I like about new agents? Totally clean slate, not corrupted by tradition. Really, that's like my specialty in coaching. I love new agents. I mean, it's my total
fun thing. Help this guy.
All right, so let's rock it, Russell. What do you got?
Agent.
Keller Williams.
One of their Ignite classes where they're supposed to be trained and taught.
Right.
He said there were no mentors available, which kind of broke him down a little bit because he just didn't have anybody to connect with, nobody he could pull information from.
By the way, in my new coaching brochure, which is directed at that I developed just for new agents, you'll like this, Russell. I say at the top, everything they teach about how to succeed, everything that is typically taught about how to succeed in real estate is 100% wrong. That probably doesn't get Russell in the right frame of mind, right? For the
exactly. Positions against the tradition.
Position against tradition.
So
okay.
what he's saying, what Russell's saying is, he's saying that.
Well, I mean, look at it. The average realtor makes like $50,000 NAR, and 80% of new people in the business fail. So go ahead.
Okay. So what Russell's asking here is he's saying that he's going to be, despite the fact that he didn't feel like he got an awesome reception at Keller and wasn't able to find a good mentor, he's going to be mailing out 6.5 by 12-inch postcards to promote his real estate, business.
All right.
And he's not sure what to do when somebody actually calls him to say yes. That's pretty foundational.
Yeah.
So what he's
You mean say they call him because
if
they
they
want to
call
mail
him
it?
because they get the postcard,
Okay,
he's just
good.
like, I just don't even know what to do. Is there any basic advice you can give me to
Sure.
get me set on the right track?
Okay, sure. Well, first, number one, go through a few quick things, Russell, and thanks for the great question. Number one, in this thing you send out, be sure that you have a compelling message. Do not just send out, hey, I'm Russell and I'm this and here's my photo and I'm wonderful and I'm with Keller Williams and all this stuff. Keller Williams, of course, great company, but that isn't it. That's just like one of the herd. Everybody does that. It's totally boring. Nobody cares. So, and say, whatever, that isn't, you've got to think what, I presume this is for home sellers, you're going after listings, okay, not buyers. Please make it listings, okay? That's the name of the game. So you want to have a compelling message. Like some of the strategies I'll just tell you, some of the things I teach is in the way of a compelling message as well. I have my 22-step, 29-day home launch or home sale formula. So that's a whole process for selling homes that is presented. You can develop your own. You don't have to buy mine, for example. But it's a process for selling homes that truly any home seller could see would logically and transparently increase the probability their home will sell for more. So your message might be, ask me how I sell homes for more than they're worth. One of the really trick lines I've used a lot, and it's really cool. And you can, because you say, and that should be all, maybe if that's your message, all over the place. I sell homes. I can show you how to sell your home for more than it's worth. Talk to me first. Talk to me first. So I just want to, that wasn't really your question, but in your thing you're putting out, you need to have a strong, compelling, sticky, memorable message. And I use the RIBS test that I can talk to you about later to go through whether my message is really compelling. Relevancy, inevitability, believability, and simplicity is the 4 steps. Okay. Now, so someone calls you. Okay. So I guess the next step is the purpose of an advertisement, the purpose of a flyer, the purpose of a website, any of these things is to, we'll call it, make your phone ring. That is, give you the opportunity to get an appointment. So we start there. And so the opportunity is to make your phone ring, not to sell anything, persuade anybody to do anything, but pick up the phone and call you. That's number one. Number two, when they do call you, the purpose of the telephone is to make an appointment. And I will say that again, Russell, the purpose of the telephone is to make an appointment. Do not try to sell anybody anything, a seller on listing with you over the telephone. It's to get an appointment. You know that, I'm sure. So your question was, well, a person calls me, what do I do? Well, the first thing you do is they're going to say, hey, I saw your thing that you can actually sell homes for more than it's worth. What does that mean? What do you mean by you sell homes for more than it's worth? Talk to me first. And you would say, hey, you would presume, you naturally have to program your mind to presume that when they call you and ask you that question, they want to meet with you. So you would say, hey, I am thrilled to explain it to you. And you would say, are you free? You'd look at your calendar and say, I'm free at 5 o'clock tonight or 7:30 tonight, which is more convenient for you. So you, bam, just right there, close for appointment. Now, they may come back and say, oh, well, no, can you tell us a little about it over the phone? And can you tell us about it over the phone? People do it all the time. You say, well, you never say no, no gimmicks, none of that stuff. You say, well, sure, of course. What it is I've looked at the traditional home selling formula, and it's the same one that's been around for 75 years. And then I studied what Apple does to get people standing in line for the launch of a new iPhone. And I studied what Tesla did just a couple of weeks ago to get 185,000 orders on a car, deposits and orders on a car that, well, nobody'd ever test driven and people wait years to have. I studied those kind of pre-marketing, advanced modern marketing strategies, and I incorporated some of them into real estate. And so that's what it is. It's a whole formula. I've got it laid out. I've got it in an outline. I have it in an infographic. And hey, I'm free at 5 today, 7:30. I can come by and show it to you, et cetera. And so the idea is you're not going to explain everything, but you're going to explain enough to get the appointment. So you get the appointment, and then I could spend this whole thing on the appointment, which I'm not going to do. So bottom line is you go over and if you need some more help in terms of the listing appointment, I have a set of videos called The Perfect Listing Presentation. And I actually have a 25-minute one that we actually do for free. We give away for free. So just send an email to help@realestatemaveriks.com. Tell them you'd like the 25-minute version of the Perfect Listing Presentation course, and it's yours for free, Russell.
Awesome.
Okay.
Very good.
Good.
So we got another email in. Email's popular today. Question from one of our agents. I don't have a name.
Okay. No name.
Unfortunately. But this is what they say. Tonight, I'm presenting an offer on a house, and I know that the sellers should take this offer, but they are going to want more. Anything I can say to the sellers to persuade them to take an offer they should take?
Yeah, it's always a problem in real estate. So the question is, again, you have a presentation tonight with an offer on a house that you really believe the seller should take. And how do you persuade them to do that? Because a lot of times sellers will turn down offers they shouldn't, and that ends up costing them money in the long run. Well, the best approach I ever found was to change the mindset of the seller, change the mindset of the home seller. So what I would say to a home seller is, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, we have this contract here right now, and I know you're having some reservations as to whether you should reach down and sign it. And I've told you that I really believe you should, and here are the reasons why. And what I'd like you to do before you make a final decision is to change your perspective for a moment. I'd like you to put yourself in the mind of a buyer, not this buyer, a buyer, because tonight, that's really what you are. You're not a seller. I know you think you are, but you're really a buyer. And here's why. We've already determined that this contract on your home, that this buyer for your home is a really good one. Highly likely that this transaction will close. Consequently, if you decide not to take it, really what you've essentially done, let's say this contract's for $385,000. What you've essentially done is bought your home back for $385,000. Because if you sign this contract, it's gone. It's cash in your pocket in 30 days. So when you make the decision, not to sell, you've essentially bought it back for $385,000. Now, here's what I want to ask you. You can't look at this home emotionally anymore. It's just money. It's just an investment. You've got your eye. You bought this other home. You're moving on. So here's what you have to ask yourself before you make a decision as to whether to sign this or not. If you had $385,000 in your pocket today, knowing that your home's been on the market 2.5 months, knowing that we've never seen an offer contract higher than this, knowing that the longer it sits on the market, the less it's likely to sell for, because days on the market are acid to the price of a home. They kill the price of a home. So knowing all those things and knowing all the things you could do with $385,000, all the potential investments, here's what would you buy this house for $385,000 in the hope that maybe you could sell it in a month or two for $5,000 more? You know you wouldn't. There's like thousands of better investments. And yet if you turn this contract down, that's what you've done. You've just, as an investor, bought this home back for $385,000. Now you don't want to do that, do you? Well, I got to tell you, that was the strongest approach I ever used to, and I didn't use that unless I really believe the sellers ought to reach down and sign the contract, because sometimes I believe they should counteroffer. But if I believe they should sign it, I believe that was the strongest thing I ever used to get them in the right frame of mind. And one last thing I'll share on that is that I can't think of a time in all the thousands of homes I've sold over all these years when, even when a reluctant seller who had great reservation did go ahead and sign, that they weren't thrilled the next day. It was like, I'm just always happy to have it gone, have it out of the way, and move on. So you know, it's always been a good thing, even if the seller was reluctant at the time that particular day. Yes, sir. Good. What do we have?
Okay. Next one we've got from Dan Supo.
Okay, Dan. Hi, Dan. I know you. How you doing? So good to have you on.
He says, hi, Greg.
Dan is not going to throw me a softball. Dan wouldn't do that.
Dan's got a good one.
Yeah. Okay, Dan. You know. Dan, you should get me these like a little bit early so I could get ready, right?
We like to make you sweat.
Yeah.
Hi, Greg. I advertise the 990 program with brochures. So explain to people what the 990 program is. Yard signs, car signs, etc. Mm-hmm. I've done it 3 times now, and I've been asked how I can sell a home for a commission of $990. And before I even get to answer, they laugh and say it's a scam. How do I overcome that? Okay, good. And I'm going to presume that this is over the phone, that you're not actually in on the appointment, because if you're in on the appointment, you can actually, you know, have a better opportunity to explain the program. So, hey, great question. So first of all, for many others we have listening in, the 990 program was a program I developed many years ago. I was the #1 agent in Arizona back at the time, using my 29-day fast sale plan, and I had about 60 listings. And I was sitting in an open house, and the long story short is
I just decided I was never going to do that again. I just didn't like open houses. So I thought, well, I have about 60 sellers. They're all wanting me to hold opens, and I have a few members of my team. And so I came up with this idea. I'll convince my sellers to hold their own homes open. I thought that would be a good idea. But how do you do that? I mean, this was way back in like the 80s. Okay, the 80s. I had to admit that, anything with me goes back to the 80s, but it's back in the 80s. And so I thought, I know how I can convince them. I'll try. I'll tell them that if they find their own buyer, they hold their own home open, and they find their own buyer who's not with a real estate agent, and I want to be clear about that, who doesn't go through with a real estate agent, isn't working with a real estate agent, doesn't go back to the real estate agent, just totally buyer without an agent, that I will step in. They'll hold their own home open instead of me. I'll give them the brochures. I'll give them the signs. They don't sell their own home. They just hold it open. They refer all buyers who come through without agents to me, that if they find their own buyer, that I'll charge them $990 instead of the typical 6%. I thought, boy, that's a big carrot. And, I figured, hey, this is going to cost me some money. I figured that, but whatever. I don't want to do this anymore on Sundays. So I floated that out to my sellers. Well, they loved it, as you might guess. And they started like 50 of the 60 start holding open houses right away on weekends and sometimes during the week. And one thing I didn't realize is they start shoving me all these buyers, which is like fantastic. And the bottom line is, that how often does a buyer without a real estate agent, often does a buyer without a real estate agent come into a home and say, I'll take it and buy it? So I knew that, having been in the business quite a few years, that it's rare. So I figured a few homes would sell that way, but not that many. And as it turns out, for every 8 listings on that program, 7 would sell at my normal percentage commission, and 1, the home sellers would find a $990 buyer for. So to cut to it, turns out that my home sellers loved it. It was an enormous source of buyers for me. I hadn't even really contemplated. We made a ton of money with those. 7 homes sold on normal percentage commissions, 1 at the $990. And then when I started marketing it and say, sell your home for commission as low as $990, my phones rang off the hook, and presented it to sellers. The sellers loved it because it's the best of both worlds. It gives them the opportunity to actually attract more buyers, to team up with me, and to try to save money at the same time. And if they don't, they still might found a buyer who's with a real estate agent and pay the 6% but sell their home. So the program, it's actually a program that after I was number 1 in Arizona and carrying about 60 listings, me and my team, which quickly grew, we listed 1,000 homes in the next 18 months. And I built a whole firm around this with 121 offices, 4,000 agents back in the late 80s and early 90s. Just really fun. We had such a good time. So no doubt that in marketing that, in fact, I just talked to one of our agents this morning who's using it, and they've listed 3 homes just in the past 10 days with that. They were just so thrilled, and they just joined our system like 45 days ago. And so here's the deal. The seller calls you, the prospective seller, and they say, it's just too low. It sounds like a scam. And Dan, the way I would respond to that is simply saying, let's presume we're on the phone and say, first of all, get the appointment. Say, well, let me tell you something. It is not. Everything I said in there is absolutely accurate. This has been a program that's been around for 30 years. Google Greg Hague, the developer of it. He goes 9 pages deep in Google. He's considered one of the top thought leaders in the world in the area of real estate. He developed the program. You can look at his history, look at his Wikipedia profile, and you'll see that he built this company back in the late 80s and early 90s around this concept. And so you'll see it's no scam at all. This has been around for a long time. And actually, you could also say to them, just go in and Google 990. I have 990 trademarked in the world of real estate. So just go in and Google, sell my home, commission as low as 990, or just Google 990 sells homes, anything like that. And you'll see pages of agents all over the country who are marketing it and using it. So you'll say to them, you think this could be a scam if all these agents around the country are using this 990 program? So say, let me come over, let me explain it to you. And then, of course, when you explain it to them, I know you know the presentation, you explain it to them, the way to lead is always not with the money saving part of it, but how it's also a better strategy for selling their home. Because when you and they team up, what are you doing? You're actually increasing the probability you'll attract more buyers because they're holding opens when you wouldn't be there. You're also doing your thing. So it increases the probability of that home selling faster and at a higher price by attracting more buyers early on. And the carrot to the seller is if they find a buyer who's not working with a real estate agent, the commission is $990. So, but I want to be clear for anyone listening out there that the only time that applies is if the home seller finds their own buyer who's not with a real estate agent. If the home sells co-broke or you, the listing agent, sell the home, it's on your normal commission, whatever that is, 6%. And so the last thing I'll say about it, and then Dan, shoot something back in if this didn't totally answer your question, because I want to totally answer your question here. Just shoot another email back in and I'll go deeper in it, because this is one of the strategies. I started this Q&A off this morning with the strategies that I've used over the years to make millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars in real estate. And it's not about me, being such a good salesperson. It's about me being a smart strategist, coming up with these strategies that home sellers love, that got me endorsed and got me listings. So if I didn't fully answer your question, but I want to say this last thing about it, and that is that even when the homes do sell at $990, I used to take a photograph of myself with the home seller. So I'd have this photograph and I'd get the quote from them that Greg Hague sold my home in 43 days, and I saved $22,000 with his $990 commission plan. And then I'd market that out into the market. Oh my gosh, phones is like crazy ring off the hook. And then just list ton more homes than we would ever list. I mean, 10x more homes than me and my team would have ever listed. And so what? So what if 1 out of 8 sell at that $990 commission? To me, that was the best advertising thing in the world. That was just paying for advertising credibility. And plus those sellers are happy and they bought homes and they had sent us buyers and all that kind of stuff. So Dan, I hope that helps you. And if you have want to get more deeply into that, just send in another email. Okay.
Awesome. Next question is from Angela Smith. She is an emailer.
Hi, Angela. How are you today?
And she says,
does Angela say who she's with?
Angela did not say who she's with.
Does Angela say where she's from?
Angela did not say who she's from.
Okay, Angela.
She's being secretive.
The mystery Angela. The mystery Angela. Okay.
Once I have a listing, I have no problem getting the contract. However, I am having a problem getting more listing appointments. How do I get on more appointments? Okay,
great question. Well, let's see. I could spend, again, the whole hour on that, so I'll spend just a couple, 3 minutes on that, because I think that is I know that is every real estate agent's biggest challenge. Unless you have a super big name in your community, and just because you have such a big name and have so many listings and have so many signs around, and just because people see it, and you'd get listings. If you're not one of those, and my specialty in coaching is not coaching those. There's some coaches who coach those people. I was one of those people, but I just have a lot more fun coaching agents that are, let's say, don't have the big names or lesser known, even brand new in the business, and showing them how to, I hate to say this because we might have some like big time multi-million-dollar producers listening today, but knocking off you guys if you're listening. I like to take the little guys and show them how to knock off the big guys. So the question is, I'm sorry, I forgot the question. What was the question, Angela?
How do they get on more listing appointments?
Oh, how do you get on more listing appointments? Of course. So that's going on more dances. That is every real estate agent's biggest challenge. So number one, you must have a compelling message. You must have a compelling message. You just can't be doing advertising like all the other realtors. It's insane. I mean, all these realtors, for example, on your card, I don't have one of my cards here, on your business card, does the back, you just heard me before talking to Dan, does it say, what is your strategy? If your strategy is the 990 program, one of the courses I teach, if it's that, then you would have on the back of your card, selling your home, ask about my $990 commission plan. And that's on your cards and your ads and your everything and whatever. You want to get some appointments? You want to get on more appointments? You start pushing that in the market. You don't even have to spend a lot of money to do that anymore. You can do it through social media, all kinds of things. Just get the message out. And believe me, there's an example. Another one is, and again, you can have your own formula. You don't have to buy mine. You have your own formula and strategy. My 29-day, 22-step home selling formula, 22 steps, 22 pre-marketing steps that any seller would logically see increases the probability their home will sell for more. Well, you just say, I have a plan to sell your home for more than it's worth. And by the way, they might ask them, well, what do you mean more than it's worth? Well, you say that more than it's worth. What it's worth is what any other agent would sell it for, doing the normal. List the home, put it in MLS right away, put up a sign right away, run some ads, hold some open houses, and hope it sells. And if it doesn't, then we're going to blame you, the home seller, because it's too high a price. Boring, 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 boring. That's been around for like ever. And that's, of course, the opportunity. 1.2 million realtors roughly are doing business that way. And that is their Achilles heel, and that's your opportunity. So you come up with something in your strategy, your differentiating strategy. That's what I teach. That's what my coaching is all about. And And you can listen to a lot of my videos for free. You don't have to pay for it. Just listen to them. And then you come up with this compelling message. So you get it out through your cards. One of my things is every one of the agents in my coaching must hand out at least 10 of their business cards with that compelling message on the back to 10 new people every day. And I show them how to do that in a natural way. So you get it out in other forms. And the other thing, I'll just give you one other way that really worked amazingly for me. And it's a different kind of farming. I do not believe in traditional farming. As you might guess, I don't believe in much that's traditional. It was good at its time. It's just that things evolve so quickly, and there's so much better ways to do things. It's why, we call ourselves real estate mavericks over here, because we're simply saying that things are changing so quickly, and there are always better ways, and we're always looking for those better ways. So another thing is farming. What I believe about farming is one of the things that I've done and continue to taught is, rather than going out knocking on doors and saying to people, hey, I'm a real estate agent, and I'm the specialist, boring. I'm the specialist in this neighborhood. And if you're ever thinking about listing with me, then everything about selling your home, then give me a call. You maybe produce a community event. One of the things I did was a community event newsletter. Every month I would figure out the month before what was going on, not just in the community, but all over town. What new movies, what new musicians are coming to town. If you're in a big city, what's down at Symphony Hall? Are the Blue Angels coming and performing at the airport? I mean, what cool things are happening the next month? And then I just produced this newsletter that had all that cool stuff in it. Here's if we're in April, then here's what's coming in May. Here's all the cool stuff and all the kids events too, for anybody that had children. And it was like a 4-page thing that I handed out. And I went around, and some of my team, also went around because I couldn't get all the houses. And we handed it out. We never even said we're in real estate. Never said we're in real estate, but it very small on the back. Here's one of my coaching brochures. Okay, so it might look like this, and this would be your community thing. Okay. And then all that, then just down on the back, real small, it would just say, oh, by the way, thinking of selling your home, give me a call. I have a plan to sell your home for more than it's worth. That's it, just small at the bottom, or whatever your strategy is, whatever your compelling message is. I made a fortune from doing that. I mean, we got to the point where we're handing that out, me and my team, to thousands of homes every month. And I remember after years and years, I got so busy building companies and then coaching and training, I just stopped, because I wasn't even doing that anymore. And I can't believe the number of calls I got from people that said, Craig, can't believe you stopped doing that. I mean, I've owned that community just by a strategy like that. So those are the kind of things. And then also, if you want, and I'll be glad to do this, if you email back at help@realestatemaverics.com, I will send you the Voxer, Voxer, it's like little audios I have where I went through if you want to get like appointments right now, a buy owner strategy and a expired strategy, how to call. I actually recommend you have somebody just do it for you and pay them $20 an hour. They'll get you an appointment every day. I mean, you hands down with what I'll teach you to say. And it's, again, based on strategy. It's not scripts, it's strategy. The strategy I'll teach you to say, you can have an appointment today. I mean, if you do that and I get you that today, you listen to that, you could do that, make those calls in the morning, and like in 30 minutes, have an appointment that day. So have an appointment every day. But those are the tougher ones, the buy owners and expireds. I say that those are what you need to do when you're broke and you need to put food on the table. There's nothing wrong with those even after that. But then you just use that money to build this scalable business where you have home sellers calling you 4, 5, or 6 every week. And that may sound hard, Angela. It's not. It's just not that hard. You just got to do it right. It's totally hard. In fact, it's impossible if you don't know what to do. But if you do, it's just not that hard. Okay, Adam, am I taking too long on these?
I think you're doing good.
Oh, okay. Just wanted because
okay. Okay, so we got one from.
I just I just got a lot that I want to share, and I want to say, I just don't want to just keep it. I can't just keep these answers till like a minute.
Right. Well, you can. Why don't you ask the viewers to let you know if you're answering?
Oh yeah. If I'm going too long here, I don't know. Send like thumbs down or something to help Real Estate Mavericks.
So here's one from Melissa.
Melissa, okay.
And she says, "Hi, Greg. I'm new to the industry, and you're the first trainer I followed.
Okay.
What makes this program better than everything else I see out there? When I Google real estate training, so much comes up."
Do you know, I got to tell you, Googling real estate training and Googling Real Estate Mavericks, I forgot to tell you, Adam, that Mike Ferry and Tom Ferry bought ads up above Real Estate Mavericks. So when people Google Real Estate Mavericks, they got, that's changing friggin' today. I mean, you kidding me? Noted. Noted. Okay, thank you. I forgot to mention that till you just brought that up. Okay, so you Google real estate. So what makes it different? Well, in a nutshell, that's easy. That's an easy one. No criticism of other real estate trainers. In fact, I will say right now that one other real estate trainer, Kevin Ward, is a close personal friend of mine. And I know most all the real estate trainers. I go back, Tom Hopkins, close personal friend, going back into the old days. And all of them, most all of them, teach good stuff. Believe me, what they teach is better than not having the knowledge. Kevin Ward in particular, Kevin, I consider to be, and I'll just put in a plug for Kevin. If you haven't looked up Kevin and Yes Masters, he is just so cool. He's off the chart. He's teaching really great stuff. And that's why I want to expose him to the people who are in my coaching, because I think so highly of Kevin and so highly of what he's teaching. So that being said, how do I differ? How do I differ from everyone, even from Kevin? And Kevin has me out to speak at a lot of his events as the keynote. Why would another trainer do that? Well, because what I teach is different than Kevin. And it's not that what he teaches isn't good. So here's what it is. Every trainer, every single one, because I know what they teach, they will teach you, in essence, the scripts, and nothing wrong with scripts. I'm just not about scripts, but they'll teach you scripts and approaches, many times gimmicky approaches, to getting more doors and to convince sellers to list with you. And that's all good. Believe me, it's better than not having it happen at all and going broke. But to me, what is missing with all other coaches, and not one other coach, check them all out. You can, Craig Proctor, Tom Ferry, Mike Ferry, you can just go through a whole list. Not one of them teaches you a detailed approach, a truly well thought through formula to sell homes for more, to actually deliver. It's Melissa, correct?
Correct.
Melissa, to deliver a better result to your home sellers. And you can. And all these years I've been in real estate, from make every agent your listing agent, where because I co-broke the entire commission, and I'm not suggesting you do that, but because I did, those 10 homes I listed in a row, they were swamped with showings. Those sellers were so out of their mind happy. I am sure every one of those homes sold for more than it would have, because they sold so fast, offering that double co-broke. Every agent in town, wanted to show those, that the sellers ended up with a better result. And my 990 program that I talked about before, it's not the seller would end up with a better result because they'd save money, because only 1 out of 8 did. It's because I teamed up with the sellers, and together we got more buyers in faster, so we didn't track as many days on the market, and we ended up, every single case, at least we increased the probability that home would sell for more than it would have otherwise. So, and then my 22-step, 29-day fast sale plan that's been featured in Forbes and all this stuff. So the difference is, I will teach you a variety of ways to have people like you, to market through LinkedIn, to give a much better listing presentation, to market. I have the only course in the country that is designed, it's the 4 pillars of marketing, how to market to home sellers, the 4 most effective and efficient ways to get the biggest bang for your buck when you're trying to attract home sellers. All that stuff I teach. I know it's fantastic because it worked for me and made me a fortune. It took me a lot of years and a lot of money spent the wrong way to figure out what the right way was. Just me teaching the personal brochure concept, that you should never go on a listing appointment without having pre-delivered to the seller a personal brochure. Again, same size as my coaching brochure, this kind of a thing, but it would talk about you personally, and it would say in the front, I know we'll be meeting professionally soon, but I'd like you to get to know me personally before we meet professionally, or I thought you might like to get to know me personally before professionally. And you deliver that with a little personal gift. I recommend, to me, I did cherry butter because I grew up as a water ski instructor in the summers in Michigan, and I grew to love cherry butter. So these are all, the kinds of things that are peripheral to the core of my teaching. They're fantastic, even without a better strategy for selling homes. They're going to dramatically increase the likelihood that you'll get the listing. In fact, without my strategies, I can teach you how to get the listing. I can teach you how to get most every listing, to make your phone ring. But what I'm proud of, and where I really differ, is I also teach you truly how to break the traditional, antiquated routine for selling homes, what 1.2 million realtors are doing, how to be more up to date, to take advantage of what Apple's learned and Tesla learned and all these smart marketing companies have learned, to actually, in a genuine way, increase the probability that your home sellers will get a better result. And boy, am I proud of that. And that's how I totally differentiate myself from other trainers.
So here's my question for you. This isn't
Okay.
from an agent. Obviously, you might not be the right fit for a lot of agents out there
Totally.
because you're pretty edgy.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
change can be scary for a lot of people.
Some companies won't let their agents do what I teach because it gets other agents mad. I mean, one big company, for example, I'll just say it, one big company on the East Coast, a couple agents joined my training there. And then when they wanted to implement the regional manager of the company said, no, you can't do this. And the two agents who joined my coaching and paid a lot of money, called me and said, what are we going to do? And I said, well, I'll give your money back. It's no problem. They said, no, I don't want our money back. Well, you just talk to this guy. So I'm not going to mention who it was, but I did. It was a big firm with well over 100 offices on the East Coast. I'm sure everybody could figure out who that is. And I talked to the regional manager, and he said, Greg, I've looked at this stuff, and I'm just going to tell you, we talked for a half hour. He was in his cell phone driving his car somewhere on the East Coast there. And he says, I have no doubt that this stuff works. He said, I've looked at your background. I see it, and it makes logical sense. He said, but I can't let these agents do it. They're newer, they're inexperienced, and they're going to flat out just tick off the big time agents in the office, and I can't afford to lose them. So that's one of the unfortunate things about, the things that I teach is that you have to be with a company that is more open-minded, more forward-thinking, and quite frankly, is thinking more about you than your success than recruiting more agents or not making their big time agents unhappy because you're going to knock them off their perch. So
is having a mentor important, even if it's not you?
Trust me on this, whether it's me, Kevin Ward, any of these guys out there, having a mentor, having a coach is essential. The purpose of and really, I'm not right for everybody. Like, for example, people who are agents out there who have huge names in the community, I could teach them all kinds of things. I built big companies after I became incredibly successful in real estate. I could teach them how to build a scalable business that they wouldn't even believe could double, triple their income. If somebody asked me, it's not that I wouldn't do it. It's just, it's not what I have fun doing. I love to think, look, so this idea of having a coach, if I'm not right for you, find somebody else who is. And that doesn't just apply. What's the purpose of a coach? To take you to a level you couldn't reach on your own. I have 3 mentors right now, 3 in my life, 3 mentors in my life, people who I look to help me become better. And I'm way down the road, and without a lot of ego, I'm a pretty smart guy. And yet I have 3 people who I look to in the personal development area. It's Brendan Bouchard. I think Brendan Bouchard is awesome. I was just with him on Monday. I did an interview. I sat with him all day in a thing. We each gave a talk at this one event. And then Brendan, I did an interview of Brendan that I'll be putting out on video here shortly. Boy, did he hit it out of the park. And Harvey McKay. Harvey McKay is my partner in Harvey McKay University. He wrote the famous book, Swim with the Sharks Without Being Alive. He's built one of the largest envelope companies in the world. The guy is off the chart smart. He's a mentor to me in business. And quite frankly, in real estate, Kevin Ward. I learn a lot from Kevin Ward. I mean, I bounce things off Kevin all the time, and he bounces them off me. So I believe that in real estate, you definitely need to have a coach. And number one, and number two, in other areas of your life, if your health isn't where you want it, you need a coach. If your health is where you want it, you need a coach, because you can make it better. I mean, whatever it is that's important to you, you need a mentor, you need a coach, you need somebody to take you to the next level. So I think it's not important. I have this line, because one of the things I teach are, I call it smartsmanship. 1-sentence rules that help you make better decisions, fewer mistakes, and know what to do when others don't have a clue. And I really characterize it as, it's important to be educated, but it's essential to be smart. And so many people get educated in school, in real estate. They go to real estate school. Are you kidding me? Real estate school doesn't teach you how to sell real estate. That's just like, you just got to do that to get your license. I mean, that's just like a joke. You got to do it to get your license. And I guess it's good, what all that stuff is, but you're just going to wash it out of your mind, within a month after you pass the exam. So the bottom line is, you, in anything that's important to you in life, you need a coach, you need a mentor. And the whole idea is you're never at the top level. You can always go a step higher. And I hope you all out there have the ambition to do that. One of the things I talked about at the beginning here was a boxer I put out to my coaching group yesterday was, don't let tradition cage your ambition. Well, some of the traditions are, some tradition might be just that you watch 3 hours of TV today or 2 hours of TV a day. You got to break that. You got to stop that. The average American wastes 13 years of their life watching TV. Nothing wrong with TV. I enjoy a good show. You want to name some good shows? Some good movies. I could give you Top Gun, My Cousin Vinny. I could go through a whole list of movies. I could like line for line, but it's limited because I want my life to be big and full and rich, and having a coach, having a mentor in the areas that are important is critical to that. So I went on way too long. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, good.
We got one from John Gentry.
Okay, John. Hi, John. How are you?
Nailed in at help@realestatemaveriks.com.
Okay.
That's nice.
You think people are having trouble with the Q&A during the Q&A?
Maybe.
If you're on the webinar, you can email questions in to help@realestatemaveriks.com. You also, up at the top of your screen, you should be able to see a Q&A that you push that Q&A and it brings up a thing on the right-hand side that you can then just type your questions right in there, just so you know, in case somebody came on late. Okay.
So what John is asking here, he says, I'm an older agent and I want to finally start to take advantage of developing a team and leveraging their time and their talents.
You bet. So important.
Can you help me sort of define what the right, practical, and profitable way to build that team is?
Absolutely. I consider that just absolutely critical. And so let me start here. First, most people never make the transition from being a technician to being an entrepreneur. And what I mean by that is the technician is the person who does the work. The entrepreneur, the business owner, is the person who does a business. Now, I'll give you an example. I don't know a thing about the dry cleaning business other than Roseanne takes my stuff in and it reappears back in my closet all nice and hung up. But I guarantee you, I could start a successful dry cleaning business because I really believe that, because I understand how to market, I understand business, I understand how to scale up a business. And would my lack of knowledge in dry cleaning be a hindrance? Actually, not at all, because I would just hire somebody or bring in a partner who was like the smartest dry cleaning person in the world. So my point is that in real estate, I believe most all real estate agents look at it from a technical or technician standpoint. And this is, by the way, taken from the book, The E-Myth Revisited, where they talk about the different roles people play and how you have to understand there's a technician, an entrepreneur, and a manager. So the first thing is to scale up a business, to build that scalable business, you want to understand that you want to be the entrepreneur and that the technical work of listing and selling homes, at some point, you may not be doing that at all. You may not be doing that at all. So that's number one. If you want to do it, that's cool. You can still do it. But the idea is to build an operation where you don't have to do it. Like I would sometimes take 2-3 months off and I motorcycled around the world, Europe, all that kind of stuff. So how do you do it? Practical, how do you do it? Number one, you need to first understand how to list and sell just to get the money coming in. You know that. You're already there. Number two, what I did is I tried a number of things, and here's what really worked well. I had these 4 types of people on my team to get started. And then I just scaled them up and had more and more and more in each category. Number one was the obvious, the transaction coordinator. Pay him so much a transaction, $150, $250, $350. Get rid of the paperwork. Do not have to ever even think about paperwork. That is craziness. Nothing to do with paperwork, anything technical. Once a home is sold, you should never have to be involved in that again, other than interfacing with the home seller. And actually, as you'll see in a minute, you shouldn't even have to do that. So everybody knows that. That's easy. Number two is what I call a marketing person, phone person. And I had a person whose job their sole job was to get me on 1 listing appointment a day minimum. If we didn't have one from a call-in, then they would call expireds, use my expired talking points, use my buy owner talking points if they called a buy owner. But the deal was, I'm going on a listing appointment, at least 1 listing appointment every single day that I want to work. If I only want to work 5 days that week, then I'm going to have minimum 5 listing appointments. And so I had this marketing person, and they were paid based on results. They were paid based on the number of appointments, not an hour, number of appointments they got me. So they were paid like if they got me on a listing appointment that day, they might make $250, $300 just for the appointment. If I didn't get the listing, that's my problem. They'd also get paid a healthy amount at closing. So you need that kind of a person. They also got smart, worked on my marketing, looked at where we could market and get the best bang for the buck. They might go out and do part of my farming, distribute, as I talked earlier, the community newsletter and the things that would bring people's attention to me and introduce themselves as working with me. So that person is critical. That's the person that's going to constantly be driving business into your firm. That's their job. Then the other 2 people third one is buyer partners. I never work buyers. You cannot build a scalable business if you're going to work buyers. I just will tell you that unless you want to do it just for fun and have other people do all this other stuff. Buyers take up way a lot of time, and you can't scale it. And they may buy or they may not. But bottom line is if you're focused on listings, which is it's all I teach, is how to build a scalable business, having huge inventory, then you will have buyer partners handle everyone. And then you just split commissions with them. You make your commission arrangement with them. And if you want to email me after this, I'll even send you over what my splits were and how I did that with my buyer partners. And so my buyer partners even handled my home sellers. When my home sellers sold, my clients, my buyer partners would handle them, or my listing partner who was in charge of that listing, and I'll get to that next, they would handle them. So that's the buyer partners handle everything. I bet you starting in 1987, 88, up to the time I started coaching and quit selling real estate, I don't think I ever showed one buyer, one home, ever, one single time. Except if I was over on a listing with my home sellers and I was there to help make a buyer deal work. I'm talking about taking a buyer out and showing them homes. So then the listing partners, this is critical. And I'm sorry, first name is John here?
First name is John, yes.
John. So the listing partner. So every single listing that I received on a listing, appointment for a listing, I would have my listing partner. I would have a listing partner. Never went on a listing appointment alone. Now, the listing partner's job is to get me prepared. They would pre-deliver my personal brochure, pre-deliver my personal gift, do the research on the sellers so I could find out background in today's world, Google them, LinkedIn them, Facebook them, do all that. And then I didn't even think about it till we got in the car. They do the comps, of course. So when we got in the car, we'd always drive over together. They then gave me the quick briefing, just like we'll call it, like the listing, I'm the presidential briefing. They give me the briefing. Okay. So we arrive over there, and then we go through and let's say we get the listing. Well, I introduced this person as my partner, and I always told the home sellers that the real gift here is, of course, I'm the listing agent, but that this partner of mine, let's say like Shane was a partner I had for you. I had multiple of these at any given time, Shane and Chris and Michael and all these. But let's say I had Shane with me. And so I would say Shane is the one that's primarily going to be doing all the daily work to promote interest, do this, execute on my 22-step formula, this kind of thing. But I'm always available to you. But the real advantage is that I have somebody who's assigned to your home to just every day be working on your home. And then Shane's job was to bond with the seller, to be the me, step in my shoes. And in a perfect world, I never spoke with or met with that seller again until an offer came in which case I got back involved with Shane, and we went over and either got the contract signed or counteroffered or did whatever we did. And now, it was not a perfect world. Sometimes the home sellers wanted to talk to me. Sometimes it was appropriate that I call them. Shane would always cue me up on that. And I'm using Shane as an example. But that group of 4 types of people, the paperwork person, the marketing and phone person, the listing partners, and the buying partners. And by the way, I generally pay my listing partners 25 to 30% of the list commission. And if they were really good, 35%. Who cares? To me, it was about building a business. I want them to make a lot of money. And then also generally let them handle that seller because they had bonded and knew that seller. If they had time to handle that seller, rather than a buyer partner handling the seller, have the listing partner handle the seller when the seller wants to buy a home. And then generally in that case, they would make maybe the 70% and I'd make 30% because they were doing most of the work. And my vision was to not be a hog, split up my commissions in a way that I gave my team a high incentive to make this a successful business. And then as that happened, we continued to scale up. I had more listing partners, more buyer partners, eventually had 3 marketing people and partners. And I don't know that we ever got beyond 1 or 2 transaction coordinators in my company. But bottom line was that was the formula. And I got to tell you, that works. That's just taking a different view than most people do. But the key is to get the money coming in, get the listings coming in, understand having a compelling message, and just dominating your listing market. You just got to be focused on owning your market. And by the way, you can. Anybody can. You just got to have the right strategies. It's just all about strategy. Okay.
Perfect. Okay, so we've got 5 minutes left, and we've got several questions. So I'm going to pick the best one here that I like.
Okay.
And this is a good one from Luis Sanchez.
Okay.
And what?
Luis, I'll say Luis Sanchez. So
Luis, yeah, okay, good.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on today's progressive technology strategies versus conventional, more personal strategies? I'm assuming in real estate, so digital versus face-to-face.
Mhm.
What is the direction of the industry, and where is the balance as you see it?
Okay. Yeah, great question. So where's that balance between personal relationships, digital, et cetera? Well, first of all, in my view, there will, at least in the foreseeable future, there will not be a time when the value of personal relationships isn't critical and critical to everything we do. I can't predict in 25 years what it might look like, the landscape for selling homes, but I can tell you that's important. However, that being said, agents who don't learn every day, I spend at least an hour, and I've been doing this for years now, studying digital. Is that right, Adam? I mean, it's not my job here. You know, it's Adam's job and our social media person and our web person. But I want to know this stuff because I can't effectively coach unless I understand how to leverage Snapchat, understand how to leverage Instagram, understand that while Snapchat now is appealing to a younger demographic, you can be absolutely sure, like I just read a thing from Gary Vaynerchuk this morning, you know, talking about Snapchat and how that is going to be the millennials right now. They're into it big time, and in a year or two they're going to way be into it big time. And that Vaynerchuk was even saying that some of his very wealthy friends just think it's cool and they're into it. So Snapchat, Instagram, all these things. Instagram, of course, been around for a long time. I just use these as examples. You have to become. You want to be really successful at real estate. You need to become an expert, a virtual expert at digital. And you just what you lack in smarts, you make up for in effort. You just spend the extra time to learn it, and it's fun. Just like Voxer, I communicate with my coaching students. I could have never done this on this program called Voxer. Here it is, right here on my phone. You can see it right down there. That little thing, and it's a walkie-talkie. I mean, I've got a Voxer group, all this stuff, talk to coaching students, bang, just leave them little messages. They leave me messages and questions. And if you've got any other questions, get on Voxer, Voxer, download it. It's free. If you want to go to the upgraded version, it's $4 a month. And I'll elaborate with you on Voxer. Just say, hey, Greg, I asked you the question on the thing, and I'm Hague 282 on Voxer. You can look me up, and any of you guys. And so there it is. So I know we're running short on time, but that's I think it's essential that you use that you learn it and use it and leverage it, or you're going to get left in the dust.
Correct. Okay. Good question. One just came in from Rick Jansen.
Hey, hi, Rick. How are you?
He says, I have someone who wants to be a TC but has no experience. Where can they get trained? Thanks, Greg. Okay.
I don't know. So the question is, I've got someone who wants to be a transaction coordinator, and where can they get trained? Truthfully, I just always train mine. I don't know if there's a transaction coordinator school. I know that I'm an attorney also, and there are paralegal schools, that kind of thing. But what I did with my transaction coordinator is that I trained her myself. She was with me for years and years. Mandy, who's out there, still part of our team. She was transaction coordinator for also some other realtor friends here before me in town. And so I teach my transaction coordinators what I need them to know. And I just don't know if I guess one thing you could do is find someone who has a really good transaction coordinator and pay them to train your transaction coordinator. That's probably what I do if I didn't want to do it myself. And then I'd pick it up from there. So I don't know of a transaction coordinator school.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Good question, though. It's
yeah,
relevant.
Great question. Yeah.
Okay,
absolutely.
So we've got 2 more questions. We're 1 minute over. You want to run through these real quick? Just extend.
We're 1 minute over? Are you kidding me? Let's go get some lunch. I don't want to run through these other questions. Yeah, we'll do the other questions.
Okay, so from Nicole.
Nicole. Hi, Nicole. How are you?
She says, please share your 3 best negotiation strategies.
3 best negotiation strategies. Okay.
Quickly.
All right, so I'll do them quickly. I mean, because that's, again, Nicole, my advice, get on Voxer. Voxer me at Hague 282. It's Greg Hague, and I can go into a little more depth. But let's see. Number 1 was the strategy. Listen to the strategy that I laid out earlier for convincing. They're all very narrow and deep for specific situations. So the first one is that how you would convince a home seller to take an offer when they should. So that's number one. Number two, I believe that negotiating begins before most people believe negotiating actually begins. So another negotiating strategy, in my view, is to get buyers in a higher price frame of mind. So one way to do that, a very specific negotiating strategy, and it's actually one of the steps in my 22-step formula, is to not put homes in MLS right away, get the sellers to sign off, and no pocket listing though, but get a hold of every agent. I actually teach how to build a VIP inner circle of agents that you already have them already ready to go, like your own agent MLS, but you in the community. And then before a sign goes up, before a home goes in MLS, you get a hold of all the agents in your area who could possibly, in your view, are likely to have buyers for the home. And you give them a chance to call their buyer and give their buyer a chance to see the home privately before it's ever put in MLS, before a sign's ever up. Buyers love that. And it gets them in kind of a higher price frame of mind where you're leveraging Cialdini's, Cialdinis. Look it up. Cialdini's 6 principles of persuasion. You're heavily leveraging the one principle, the 6th principle of scarcity, because this fear of loss, this scarcity that, boy, I have a chance to see something that very few people do, and I better snap it up before it's gone if I really like it. So I'll use that as number 2. And number 3, I could go on like 50 of these, but number 3 would be, from a negotiating strategy to get buyers in a higher price frame of mind. I'm going to actually give 4 here, is that I like to spend a week trying to get more than one showing on a Saturday, 2 or 3 or 4 showings, not showing it during the week, but saying that showings will be, and have them be at half-hour increments so buyers can see each other coming and going. And that creates what's known as social proof. That's actually another one of Cialdini's 6 principles of persuasion, so that you're leveraging social proof. Again, this idea of negotiating. It's not what a lot of people in my view think it is. And I studied, I'm a master level negotiator, and I taught Dale Carnegie, but I find it so much more powerful if you're doing things before most people would perceive they're actually in the offer back and forth stage, to get them more incented, more excited, so that they will actually write a higher offer or agree to a higher counter offer. So that's the 3rd. And the 4th one is, I'm going to say, how about my seller motivation story. So I think it's critical. I've done this all my life. Whenever I list a home, I talk to the sellers about how important it is to relay to buyers and to agents who have buyers your motivation for selling, and to emphasize how motivated you are to sell, and that you're going to offer somebody an amazing buy. And I know sellers always say to me, they would say to me, well, no, we don't want to do that, because we let people know we're anxious, then they're going to shoot in a lowball offer. And I say, no, the whole idea is, first of all, every buyer wants to feel like they're getting a good buy. That's without exception. You would too. And you'd be a lot more inclined to want to see a home if you felt that you were looking at a home with a seller who really was anxious to sell, as opposed to, oh, well, they're just kind of testing the market. I mean, you wouldn't even want to bother to see the house. Somebody's just testing the market. If they can get enough money, they'll buy it. Who wants to bother to see? They'll sell it. Who wants to even see that house? So I would talk to the sellers about whatever their reason for selling is. Let's say, for example, that the sellers, that their grown son had been married a few years, and his wife was pregnant with what was going to be their first grandson. And so the wife now, the wife of your clients, is the ones that are talking to you about listing, that she wants to live in that neighborhood, and that neighborhood's like 35 miles away across town. So that's the reason for selling. They want to buy a home in that neighborhood, and they want to get it done, if possible, before the baby's born. So, but it wouldn't have to be critical. They can make the drive. But so what I do is I take that and I craft it into a compelling story where every agent I talk to, every buyer I talk to, et cetera, I say, boy, you're not going to believe these people, they are so motivated to sell. Think about it. First grandson coming along, the wife one, even the husband, they want to live like right there in the neighborhood so they can be there every day, and they really want to get this done. So, and then you say, that's why they priced the home the way they have. You're not incenting people to offer less than list price. You're using that as a justification for why the list price is so unbelievably low. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, list prices generally aren't low, they're high. Well, it's your job to characterize them as being as low, and people don't know that a home might be aggressively priced until they get over there anyway. So it just gets buyers in that frame of mind and makes them more likely to see the home. So there's 4. Is that, for given that we're running over?
Okay, so last question. Here we go. From Kristen Grove.
Kristen Grove. Hi, Kristen.
Okay. In your videos and blogs, you were super critical of the MLS.
Absolutely. I am like way critical of the MLS.
Isn't that a tool we need to sell homes?
Absolutely.
Isn't that the best tool?
No, well, I'm not sure of that. So, all right, let me just give my cliff notes to finish up today on the MLS, how I feel about MLS. First of all, if you look at some of my videos, depending on which ones, I talk about, where do I have that? I tell the story about how I was mimeographing info sheets on homes in the basement of the basement of my mom and dad's Cincinnati home when I grew up at like 9 years old. And the reason I was doing that is because my dad formed a company called the Cincinnati Property Exchange. He was a small broker at the time and had a small company with a few agents. And back in those days, there was no MLS, there was no co-broking. Buyers would go to various real estate firms, like car buyers today go to various car dealers to see whatever inventory they had. And those firms would make the sale. And if a buyer looked at a home at a particular firm's homes and they didn't have one listed, that firm didn't have one listed that fit that buyer, they just move on to another firm. There was none of like what we know today. So the long story short is that my dad had this idea where he would knit together 53 small Cincinnati real estate brokers because they were getting creamed by the big guys because they only had a few listings, and the big brokers were even stealing listings. You know, a little guy like my dad would train somebody, make them really amazing. My dad was a fantastic real estate trainer. He'd make them amazing, but they didn't have a lot of inventory to sell, and there's hard to make money when you don't have a lot of inventory to sell. So the big brokers would then take these well-trained agents away. So Dad put this together, essentially an MLS among 53 small brokers in Cincinnati, called the Cincinnati Property Exchange. I helped him with that. Of course, I had no vision for what an amazing and disruptive technology that was at the time. And so I tell you that story, and that's one of the firms. There was another guy doing something similar that ended up actually being morphed into what's now the MLS. So, hey, guess what? I mean, my history goes way deep in terms of the MLS. However, I believe that the MLS is doing some things that are incredibly wrong and incredibly damaging to home sellers. One is that they expose days on the market to buyers. Buyers don't pay commissions. The MLS is set up to facilitate the sale of homes and help sellers sell homes. So why are they disclosing something that's so disruptive and damaging to price? Everybody knows that a home buyer will pay more for home, same everything, same price, same whatever. But if it's been on the market 3 days, you're probably going to end up selling it for more than it's been on the market 300 days. So the only way a buyer knows it's been on the market 300 days is because the stupid MLS lets them know that, and every MLS in the country lets them know that. This is not a game of fairness. Oh, Greg, it's fair to let the buyer should know. What do you mean it's fair? The home says it's not fair. Okay, so I guess the MLS should disclose the innermost feelings of the seller. And if the seller, all the strategies the seller discussed with me and everything else, we should put that all in MLS. I mean, kidding me? I mean, the MLS, sellers fund our real estate industry, and the MLS does them wrong. Another thing the MLS does them wrong is showing price reductions. That's ridiculous. Then, if it would just be so much better if there were no days on the market, and whatever the price was, you couldn't see. An agent who's working with a buyer couldn't see what previous prices were, because that's damaging to the price of a home. So I'm also way critical of the MLS for letting the golden goose out. Are you kidding me? I'm probably older than you, and I go back to a day when buyers had to come to us, realtors, in order to see homes because we controlled the MLS. There was no Zillow, there was no Realtor.com, there was no Trulia. You couldn't just go see everything that was out there. Buyers would come to real estate agents because real estate agents had access to the inventory. And then the NAR and the MLS, this whole thing, they get this bright idea that they're going to put all this stuff out there and expose it to buyers, so that buyers don't have to come to realtors to find out what's on the market. Are you kidding me? I mean, what idiot thought of that? I mean, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I mean, that was one of those damaging things that could have ever happened to the real estate industry. So my negative on the MLS, yeah, I'm negative on the MLS in that regard. Now, in all those regards, and negative on the NAR, NAR has done so many good things for us. I'm a member. I mean, a lot of good things for us, but they've made some real stupid mistakes too. And I think it's because the people who are making those decisions aren't out every day listing and selling home in the trenches like you are and like I was for 35 years. They didn't get it. Well, okay. So my point with MLS is not to not use it. I'll just cut to it. It's not to not use it. Yes, it is a great tool. It's an easy, quick way to expose a home that you list to a lot of real estate agents, to every real estate agent who belongs to MLS if they're looking. But I believe because of the detriments being that it tracks days on the market, the detriment being that it has a record of price reductions, that you should use it strategically. And strategically means that why not, like whether you buy into it or not, my 29-day time when I believe you should pre-market a home prior to MLS, and I have these 22 steps for doing it. And then if in pre-marketing a home, and I mean aggressively on the internet with ads, I mean, I've got this whole 22 things you do. It's just like more than most any other realtors do out there to market homes, where it's not tracking days on the market, any price reductions are not seen to a buyer. Then if it doesn't sell during that process, well, okay, use MLS as a strategy tool. And I have that. On the 30th day, you do the seller evaluation and you say, maybe it's time to put it in MLS and see if there's any buyers out there that we missed. So I believe it should be used as a tool. I don't believe it should be used as a solution. And I'll say one other thing about MLS in that regard is this idea of just taking a home and throwing it out on the market, like quickly putting up a sign, putting it in MLS right away. That 48-hour rule, unless you get the sellers to sign off, that's stupid. I mean, I know it was designed to stop agents from pocket listings where they would list a home and, the seller would think they were going to do all these great things to market it, but they really just kept it a secret so they could sell it themselves. Well, that's an ethical violation. That should be policed by the NAR Code of Ethics and by, quite frankly, the state real estate divisions, agents who do that, they should lose their license. Shouldn't be policed by the MLS. Picture yourself as the pilot of a plane. I am a pilot. And we learn certain checklists. And we follow those checklists because they've been well worked out over time. And let's look at MLS as a checklist item. Now, I believe that checklist item should be down the road a bit because I believe that's better for home sellers to not get committed. And one reason is because if a home seller does overprice their home, which they oftentimes do, as we know, if they run through this process before it's in MLS, they can transparently see with you working their home for 29 days, showing it, pre-marketing, getting other realtors over, doing all this stuff, getting evaluations to other realtors, all the things you're going to do, and nobody buys it. They're going to be a lot more intelligent. You're going to have a better listing because when you do go in MLS, the seller is going to be more sensible about what that price should be because you're going to explain to them that if they don't price it right now, that they're going to end up taking less later because it is overpriced. And if they let it sit on the market, days on the market, it's going to kill them. So picture yourself as the pilot of a plane. Even though you have these checklists, every pilot in America, commercial airlines or whatever, has the final authority to make whatever discretionary decisions they feel are in the best interest of the seller. It's not the MLS's job. It's not the NAR's job. It's nobody's job but yours. The seller hires you to figure out strategically what is the best process, the best strategy, the best formula for selling their home. So you just get smarter and smarter. You think about it more and more. You focus every day, not just on listing homes, but what could I do? What could I do that would tweak the process a bit to increase the probability just a little bit so that the homes I list would sell for more? And you're constantly working that, which is what I've done for years. And that to me is, well, my comments on MLS. I know that went way too long, but it's not that I'm against MLS. I'm just against that some of the things that MLS does that I believe are wrong. And I believe it should be used strategically, not as an overall solution.
I like it.
Okay, well, are we over the hour?
We're over the hour.
We're way over the hours.
We're 15 over, but I think it's important that questions get answered, right?
Yes.
That's the whole point.
Yeah, so are we good to go?
Good to go.
Okay, so I'll just finish up by saying again, whether you're in my coaching or join my coaching or not, one of the early questions was, do you need a coach? You do need a coach. I am telling you guys, you need a coach. And in real estate and the other important areas of your life, you just need to find the right coach for you, somebody that can help you. The money you'll spend is inconsequential. The money agents spend with me, there's just no possibility they don't get that 20, 30, 50 times back over, and sometimes each year, if they do what I say. Now, I will say that there are a lot of people out there who take training. I was talking to Brendan Burchard about it the other day. They get videos and get the training, et cetera, and then they don't do anything with it. Well, a coach is going to do you no good if you don't listen to the coach and try what he or she says. But the answer is, first of all, I really do believe that everyone needs a coach in the areas, and a mentor, the areas that are important, and you should look for those people. And then number two, I'm just going to finish up by saying something I said at the beginning of this broadcast. Don't let tradition cage your ambition. And I'm not just talking about in real estate. I'm talking about in all areas of your life. What people's expectations of you, their rules about who you should be and what you should do. Your real estate firms, expectations of you and their rules. And in the area of health, in the area of your sellers, in all areas of your life, there's the law. And to the extent the government establishes laws, you got to follow those. You're going to get thrown in jail, you have a fine. And if you want to lobby to change those, fine. But in business and life, these rules are not governmental laws. These are not, I'm going to get a fine and I'm going to go to jail. These are simply traditions. And there's nothing wrong with traditions if there's nothing wrong with that tradition. But so much of the stuff that is commonly thought and typically taught isn't the best for you. So all I'm going to say to you is think about your life. Think about who you want to be, and don't let what other people think you should be, what other people think you should do. Don't let tradition cage your ambition. Thank you, guys.